Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Underneath the Hood. I'm Dave Martin, the owner of Martin's Auto Repair in Central Phoenix.
I'm Glen Hayward, the proud owner of Goodworks Auto Repair in sunny Tempe, Arizona.
And I'm Lee Weatherby with Accurate Automotive in the heart of Mesa.
And together, we represent 140 years of combined automotive experience.
Our goal is to change the perception of our auto repair industry by going behind the scenes and underneath the hood.
And we hope to share with you what it's like to own a small business and give you a perspective from an insider's point of view.
So let's get started. Hey, good morning, Glen and Lee. How you doing this morning?
Doing fantastic.
I'm on top of the world, brother.
I like it.
I like it. Little energy. I like it. Hey, so I'm excited about this podcast. It's a pretty good one. But you have some history lessons to tell?
Yeah, we're going to do a couple new segments, the quote of the day, and also this day in history. So today I'm going to talk about in 1964, on this day, the Ford Mustang was introduced at the New York World's Fair.
That's awesome.
And it was put on display, but they didn't actually sell any of the cars till about 6 weeks later at the dealership. So they wanted to get everybody excited and enticed, and I think they did a great job because they sold millions and millions.
Still selling them today.
I was going to say tens of millions by now. So that's a great fact in history. And actually, I owned a 1967 Ford Mustang Fastback.
Wow, my son's first car.
And I was born in 1964.
Way, there we go.
So
it's a good year, Dave.
It's a great year.
That's a great piece of history too, Dave.
Not
as exciting as the Mustang.
Yeah.
But, what can I say?
My son's first car, 1964 and a half Mustang. The very first cars came off production line.
Yeah.
You guys, I think you're going to like this one because it's one that I think we all believe in. But your car won't get better with age, but it will with maintenance.
Wow, that is
a truism.
Thought you guys might appreciate that.
You know what? On the head.
Yeah, I think all those that tune in, hopefully they, can appreciate that as well. And if we do our job well, we can help them understand and educate them on why and how and what should be done. So,
well, and we're talking, in today's podcast, we're talking about the longevity and what people are doing, and really. People are keeping their cars a lot longer than they ever did before. And it's gone up from 11 to almost 14 years now?
Almost 14 years.
Yeah.
And you know what? About every 6 months, that trend is, poised to continue, which is actually kind of exciting because you know what? Cars anymore that are made, they're not just kind of the throwaways, you know what I mean? The buy and get rid of and the buy and
Yeah. Depends on what brand you buy.
Oh, well, amen.
There's some,
And
hey, good point, Glenn.
There's some idiosyncrasies in there, but yeah.
And we talked about the cost of these vehicles, and this is a little bit of information here that I got, is that in the third quarter of 2024, the average new car was $47,542.
Whoa, stop, Dave.
Yeah.
50 grand.
Yeah. And during the same time, the average used car that was sold was $27,177.
Almost half.
Well, yeah. And
still 20 grand for a used car.
But 20 grand difference. I mean, think about this.
Yeah.
It kind of just lends to what you were just telling us.
Right.
That, you know what? People are keeping their cars longer because, man, to go buy a new car, it's like, I mean, I'm a little older. The first house we purchased was under what a new car costs in 2024, third quarter. I mean, wow. 50 grand. It's a lot.
And this is the first time in history, really, that there's been that much of a difference, 20 grand.
Wow.
That's a lot. Wow. And we all know, we've talked about this before where, I mean, you buy a brand new car, drive around the block and pull it in there and it depreciated a lot.
Oh, you bet.
Yeah. So I mean,
it's not funny anymore.
But no. 20 grand's a lot.
That is a lot.
20 grand's a lot. And so, people, I guess the moral of the story here really is basically people are keeping their cars longer, and how in the world can we get them to drive their car longer? Out here, in Phoenix, Arizona, we don't have rust.
No.
So a lot of times back east in some of those places, the car rusts out. Basically, the engine's still going, the training's still going, and the car's still functional, but the body's gone.
And Dave, that's such a good question, because I think what happens is people get a little bit of confusion, going on about who do you believe and what do you believe and how do I best, take care of my vehicle so that I can keep it? And I think those are really solid questions. And some of the things we should educate on.
What do you, and I was going to ask you, Glenn, so how do you how do you instruct or educate your customers to keep their vehicle longer?
Well, the first thing is, I mean, education is absolutely, primal. You got to do it. If you don't tell people, they don't know. Most people don't read the manual in their glove box, right?
But they refer to it.
They refer to it. My manual says, and of course the conditions and how you drive your car also has a big bearing. If you're out there drag racing your car, you're going to blow it up prematurely. But I mean, the wear and tear that it takes on the tires and the drivetrain, the transmission, the engine, and everything is much
Driving
more
habits.
increased. I mean, to 100% or more, right? Is there more than 100%? There's such a thing, right? 110%. Let's just put a cherry on it. But to educate a customer, you need to ask them some questions. How do you drive your car? Where do you drive your car? Do you make short trips? Do you make long trips? Actually, the longer you drive your car on a trip, the longer your car is going to last. These stop and start things, do a lot more damage over the long run than driving your car, 100,000 miles a year and you're making a lot of long trips.
And Glenn, I got to say, I really appreciate what you just said there, based on the fact that we have to include the customer. You know what I mean? The customer is very much a part, all right, of the conversation. It's
and every
everything.
customer is different, and the way they drive their car is different.
So well said. Because the truth of the matter is, if we don't involve the customer, then we're just kind of pushing on them what it is that we want to do. But when we involve them, we can find out exactly those things you were talking about.
I need to know. It makes it very personal for both of us.
What do you want from your car? What do you want?
And we want to give our customers the most cost-effective miles
no
possible.
question.
That's exactly what our goal is, right?
Yeah.
And the thing of it is with the cost of these vehicles, and we just talked about that, they're going up. They're going up rapidly.
Yeah.
And what's going to happen is eventually people are just going to get to the point where, I mean, they're pushing out the loans on these cars to 10
years.
Yeah, it's insane.
Wow.
And the car,
I wouldn't take that long to pay off my house, let alone my automobile.
And what that tells me anyway, is that there's a lot of people out there upside down on their car.
Yeah.
And so their car's not worth what they owe on it.
Right.
And so that's going to be a big challenge. And like I said, we're in a great climate to run your vehicle for a longer period of time.
We really are.
Then I tell my clients all the time, the thing of it is you want to go out and they go out and look at a new car, figure out what it's going to cost, and they get sticker shock, and they come back and they go, let's just fix this one. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Well, we've established now, and it's quite nice actually that we have a baseline to follow, because cars are getting more expensive. I mean, I was stunned when you told me that 47. Wow, that's a
lot,
ton.
yeah.
And I mean, some are even more. You know what I mean? But the average, if you average at 47, wow, and then even used cars, what the expense and cost of a used car, why don't we let's give our viewers some insights on the best ways to maintain, so we can kind of maybe clear up some of that confusion, you know what I mean, about how do I get a car? Because, for example, I guess, Glenn, to your point, how long do you want to keep the car? You know what I mean? That really is kind of one of the things that we should define, right? Because somebody that wants to keep it for another couple of weeks.
Some people historically, they have this time set in their mind, I keep my cars for 5 years. I keep my cars for 10 years.
Yeah.
And they figured they're going to lessen the expenditures on repairs and maintenance and everything else like that by keeping them. But as the prices that we just mentioned of the new cars goes, absolutely, bonkers,
Yeah.
The cars now, I mean, the average price of a car, that was what, last year that we quoted, it was $47,000.
Right.
That wasn't a luxury car. That was like
an average car.
An average car.
Yeah.
Well, and here's another statistic, guys, and this might help us kind of, and then we'll get into the meat and potatoes of what you should do to keep your car for a longer period of time and maintaining that and get the most cost-effective miles possible. But according to a recent data from Edmunds, around 25% of the people traded in their car for a new purchase are currently upside down on their car loan.
Going to exactly what you just said.
Stark reality, right there.
Right, and that's the part that and we see it.
All the time.
We see it because customers bring a car in there, and the engine, something goes wrong with the engine because they either didn't maintain it or something happened. Car. Yeah, no, they go buy. But then
we can't afford to fix this one. You're going to go buy a new one.
Yeah, but I can stretch out the payments
for 25 years.
And then what they're doing is they're taking their car in upside down, trading it in, putting what extra on that car that they didn't get on the new car. So now they're really upside down. Now it's insane.
And,
right.
and,
Well,
and
if
you
they
know,
had a
the,
decent trade-in, they could
Yeah.
have discounted it. But yeah, you bring in a blown-up car.
but let's face it. Some of these things. All right, and you just talked about what I'm going to call the snowball effect. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Some of these things happen, and how many times have we had folks at our counter? Because let's look at the bigger picture now. Instead of just the automotive industry, everything costs are rising. You know what I mean, everything's getting more expensive. I mean, it's staggering to understand, just in our industry what's going on, but everything's more expensive. It's more expensive to buy groceries. It's more expensive to go out, to dinner. It's more expensive to.
And
do
our industry is no exception.
Absolutely.
Parts costs have gone up like 40,
Right.
40%
So
in
let's
the last year.
And they
a
do
half.
routinely. But the big key is when people come to us and they say, hey, listen, I have, these expenditures, because when we see cars, sometimes maintenance gets avoided. Would you say that
Well-
that happens to you, Dave, sometimes with some of the customers you service?
Oh, absolutely. And here let's what is a tune-up? Because
Oh, Lord God. Don't even go there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well,
That's
Dave,
the most
I thought that was
generic,
changing the oil in the
ambiguous-
filter.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right, exactly.
Generic and ambiguous. That's what it is.
No, but you ask a beautiful question.
Right. Yeah, and because this is where we really want to go with this podcast is to letting people know
Yeah.
how to maintain their vehicle,
Yeah.
where to get the information
You bet.
to maintain their vehicle in a proper way. Sometimes we can Google with everything at the touch of your fingers now. You can Google anything and find anything out.
But
are
now
you-
the real question, can you believe what you're Googling?
There you go.
Can you believe what you're
Yeah,
Googling?
absolutely.
Well, let me do this. There's
I did that. I
there's
gave
a
you guys some
parity between
sheets.
your car and your body. What you put into it is what you get out of it.
Yeah.
You feed a bunch of poison and garbage into or you just neglect it. You don't do anything that you're supposed to do to keep yourself healthy. It's the same thing with your car. It's the health of your automobile. It's the health of your body. I mean, if you look at that parity, you can easily figure out why you need to do that. And believe me, both of them, when they're neglected, cost you a heck of a lot of money to fix.
Glenn, did you just think of that? Because I'll tell you what, I really
That
like
was
that
an
analysis.
epiphany.
Yeah.
Thank you, Lord.
That was
There we
awesome.
go.
Well, and you're 100% right, Glenn. And the thing
Yeah.
of it is how badly you abused your body is later on in life.
Yeah,
It's just gonna.
There's a price to pay.
There's a huge price to pay. All the stupid stuff that I did when I was younger. I go, why does this hurt? Well, now I know why it hurts because I did some stupid stuff when I was younger.
Yeah, I used
Well,
to jump off the roof, in
Yeah.
the backyard to see if we could all
Into the
land
pool?
with the summer.
Barely clearing
No,
the
there was
edge?
no pool. There was
There was no
concrete and grass.
You
No.
were, yeah,
I'm just saying, yeah.
You were
Someday you pay for
Daredevil,
that. You
Glenn.
feel okay then, but 60 years later,
Yeah,
it
you're
doesn't
like,
feel so good.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about, like I say, okay, so going again, we've kind of, touched all around it, but the basic maintenance things, a lot of people, and I've heard you talk about people referring to the guide and everything else, but in today's world and in Arizona, let's talk specifically for, Arizona drivers and stuff, because this is a beautiful climate, you know what I mean, to be able to maintain a vehicle
Yeah.
and actually prolong its life and keep it for a while. And that just boils down to, routine service intervals with oil changes. Okay. Now, what is routine? That really what needs to be determined and decided, because I am one that believes you really don't go over 5,000 miles. Glenn, what's your thought? I mean, what is the
I say
longest that
5K
you might go?
is a good one, but
Yeah.
there's cars that market. Car companies that market 15,000 mile oil changes,
Absolutely.
10,000 mile oil changes.
Would
And
you ever do that in your own car?
I think that's perfectly fine if you're keeping the car for 30,000 miles.
Right. Amen.
Because
See,
then you pass off the garbage that you've done to your vehicle to the next guy. And
Absolutely.
that's something about buying used cars and having a proper inspection done to make sure that this car has been maintained. Because if it hasn't been, you just bought yourself a lemon.
well, you bought yourself some problems, just like you said, going back to your body analysis. It was neglected to
Yeah.
some degree.
Yeah. In
Yeah.
fact, I did a survey for someone on an article that's being written, and they say, well, what about changing fluids and all this other stuff? Well, that has everything to do with having to take your car, and before you buy a used car, have it inspected. Let the
Buyer beware.
reputable-
Absolutely.
Yeah, the auto repair shop determine how that car's been. Don't take the guy's word for it. Ask for records. Give me your service records.
Yeah.
If they don't have any, I would run like hell in the other direction.
Well, but think about this. We're asked by all of the maintenance companies. Okay, so somebody comes in and says, I have a service contract and I have a problem. I believe I have a problem with my engine. What is the very first thing they ask us for?
Was the maintenance been done on
let
the
me-
vehicle?
maintenance been
they
done.
want to see the records.
Yes,
Sometimes
absolutely.
We have to,
And if
we
you
have
don't
to take pictures and send it to them, or fax it, whatever, faxing, I don't know, whatever, you send it over
And just
the
a
internet.
quick side note.
We're in emails now,
Old
Glenn.
school.
Yeah.
I know.
Well, we have a quick side note.
Showing my age again.
I have a perfect story that fits that category. My cousin, he lives in Texas. And interestingly enough, he maintained his car at the dealer, did the oil changes, okay, but they were on a extended oil change period, longer than outside the 5,000 miles, okay? And he did it. And he did it what I'm going to call somewhat routine, or for the most part. Now, the car only has 74,000 miles on it, and now he's got something internal going in the engine, and called the warranty company, and they said, let me see your service records. They gave the service records. He says, oh, yeah, you didn't maintain your car.
Exactly.
And he followed the
They
dealer's
flipped them the
guides.
bird, right? I mean, that's what happens. I mean,
Yeah.
That's why you can't take anybody's word for that.
Well, you know what? The thing of it is, it boils down to, again, I think what you said, and that is, what do you want from your car? And if you want 30,000 miles, yeah, that's the great part. You can do that. If you want 100,000 miles, you got to do something a little different. You want 300, you know what I mean? You're just going to have to stay very regimented. Dave, what about you? What do you think your service mileage recommendation should be?
Well, 5,000 is a good number.
Yeah,
it really is. And you're getting a chance to look over that vehicle 2 to 3 times a year, which is
perfect.
One of the most important things that you're doing for your vehicle.
Absolutely.
Then is getting a set of eyes on that vehicle to make sure that the vehicle's in great shape. And then one other thing I wanted to bring up too is that when you're looking up stuff like this or getting that information, you need to take into consideration the climate.
Yeah.
Where you're at. I mean, we all know that Colorado has total different climate than Arizona does.
You bet.
And so the thing of it is if you're maintaining a vehicle,
different things wear out.
Different things wear out. Yeah. Bushings, rubber out here dries out, cracks, and causes problems.
Absolutely.
And up there they have to deal with freezing cold and there's other issues, And
right.
so it's very important that you guys had said this earlier, that we need proper information from the consumer.
You bet.
So we can help them and give them proper information.
Good.
That's why when you're looking it up online and whatever, and you're not taking all that into consideration, sometimes you get bad information.
There you go.
Right.
Good point.
We get a lot of people who move here to Arizona from colder climates and stuff like that. Well, they put salt on the road to melt the ice and everything. And the components that get damaged by the rust, the suspension particularly, we don't see that much here in Arizona until the car's got over 100,000 miles. The suspension components usually last a long time, but they get damaged by that salt getting into those components and starting to rust away the ball joints and the bushings and everything else like that.
Well, I want to ask you guys a question and kind of just get some feedback and opinion on this. But Dave asked really the perfect question. That is, and we've all been asked this, what is a tune-up? What is a tune-up? You know what I mean?
Gosh.
And of course, some people believe it's an oil change. Some people believe it is replacing spark plugs. Some people believe it's, all your fluid maintenance. Some people believe it's, an oil change and tire rotate. You know what? And I think it's a beautiful question, only from the standpoint of maintenance. It means that they're thinking about it. You know what I mean? And that's a positive. But now the real question is, when we talk to our customers, how do you guys feel about K services? When I say K services, mileage dictated services for a vehicle in order to create longevity. Do you
Absolutely, that makes more sense. Tune-up is an antiquated term that should be banished forever. the truth, I mean, because tune-up had a different meaning in the 1940s, 50s, 60s, and even the 70s.
Well, go back to
as technology
changes,
changed, tune-up, the definition has completely changed.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, totally. And it is you every now and then you'll hear a shop out there trying to bundle a tune-up.
Yes.
And that is, you said it earlier, it's so ambiguous. It doesn't mean.
And it's different for every type of car.
Right.
Some cars need valve adjustments and some don't.
Absolutely.
There are so many different things that you can't just generically say
doesn't fit in the box.
You need this because your car may need 5 other things or doesn't need 5 other things that another car needs.
And see here again, and I want to make sure that we're not confusing, our people. But Glenn, you said something that's absolutely vital, and that is different cars need different things. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And once again, you have some of your foreign cars that do need valve adjustments and things of that nature. Right. Some of them need computer updates. You know what I mean? Where in other words, part of a routine maintenance schedule is updating, the software that's in the computer that actually operates all the system.
Do you have a 3-speed transmission or a 9-speed transmission?
Bingo.
Do you think the 9's going to need a little bit more servicing?
You bet.
It's shifting 9 times to get into high gear.
Right.
That's where the 3-speed is 3 speeds, and the nomenclature, the makeup of the transmission internally they're completely different.
You
They're
bet.
polar opposites. So the maintenance schedule has to be determined by the condition of the fluids, where and how the car is driven, and the heat
Beautiful.
here in Arizona absolutely will kill everything if you neglect it.
K services, Dave. Do you believe in them?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
See, the thing of it is, I'll be honest with you. For us, I think one of the best things we can do is educate, our customers. We've talked about the 5,000 mile oil changes. We do what we're going to call 5K services. Some people like to follow a 3,000 pattern, and I'm perfectly fine with that. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
well, a lot of old
Especially-
school. Yeah, old
yeah,
school because the
s-
fluids have changed so much.
You bet.
Yeah.
And but nowadays a lot of places are using, if they're using the semi-synthetic oil, 3,000 probably works fine. If they're using, full
synthetic,
synthetics,
yeah.
5,000 I think works great. But here's the thing. There's some packages that we can put together that actually do exactly what you're talking about, saving money with the K services. Oil change, tire rotates, things of that nature that are going to help. You know what I mean? That
Here's an
stay-
expression. Here's from Ben Franklin. An ounce of prevention is worth
Ooh.
a pound of cure.
Well, you know what? That's exactly right. But we've talked about that before. It's always been, that's why they call it preventative maintenance. You know what I mean? Because a breakdown is absolutely no fun.
Oh,
Yeah.
not only not fun, you get stranded somewhere, but the cost can be 10 times what the maintenance would have cost you had you done it in a timely manner.
Well,
It's the difference in the things we've talked about in previous podcasts.
How many
Proactive
cars do you buy every
versus
year from
reactive.
customers who blew something up and they said, no, I'm not going to spend the kind of money on the vehicle.
Goes back to the $47,000 new car. I'm just going to get a new car now.
Yeah.
And that's why we're discussing.
Let's
You know
talk
what I mean?
about those finance charges.
Yeah. Well,
What are you going to end up paying for that car when it's all said and done?
Well, but the key is go back to just your fluid exchanges and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Because I am firmly in agreement with you. You know what I mean? As far as tune-up, boy, yes, we do. I mean, in the old days,
Don't use that word anymore. I'm going to slap you. You say tune up one more time.
But I
Yeah.
mean, in the old days, but our customers will still ask us, and we still have to respond for them.
I
You know what I mean?
understand.
And so the funny thing
Let
is,
me redefine tune up for you,
yes,
Mrs.
there we
Jones.
go. There we go. Education. What we really need to do is educate and help them understand, why is it good for you to do this at this interval and this mileage if you expect to get this longevity out of your vehicle. That's really how it all plays together.
Right, and when we're all working on different vehicles, we work on so many different
You bet.
vehicles. And
You
the
bet.
thing of it is some vehicles we see different things happening with that vehicle.
You bet.
And we don't want our clients to get in a situation where they have a breakdown or they have a more expensive repair. So we recommend different things just to make sure that they don't have that problem. And when you're talking about, engines and transmissions, I mean, look at the cost of those things. I mean, put a transmission in a car used to be, a couple $1,000.
Now it's $6.
Yeah, now it's $6.
Or seven.
Yeah.
Or
Seven
yeah.
or 8 or 9 or 10.
It's an all-wheel drive.
Depends on the vehicle.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
A cheap one's 6.
Maintenance is probably more important than ever because of the cost of repairs.
No question. And once again, it goes back to that quote. You know what I mean? Cars don't get better with age.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But they do get better with maintenance.
Yeah, and I don't have to tell you guys this, but the thing of it is where you get your information is key. Number one. Number two, we in the service industry, we build relationships. That's what our job is.
Amen.
And when we build a relationship with our clients, we want to there again give them the most cost-effective miles possible. So what we end up doing is we advise and they decide whatever they want to do.
Yeah.
But we advise them to get 300,000 miles out of this vehicle. These are the things that you need to do.
Right.
And your chances of having a catastrophic, really expensive repair is a lot less.
Absolutely. It's diminished.
Right, and we
Tenfold.
started this off talking about the owner's manual, but the owner's manual is just basically a sales pitch. It's telling you how many dollars or how many cents a mile it's costing you to drive that car throughout its
Cost of
life,
ownership.
right?
Cost
of ownership.
Yeah, let me ask a question because this is another one that people really, they absolutely go crazy for, but I believe it's vital, especially out here in Arizona.
Hit it.
Brake fluid.
Yes.
Glenn, do you ever change your brake fluid?
Yes.
Why?
Because it gets contaminated, it can cause all kinds of internal problems in the braking system,
And
even
what-
cause your brakes to fail. And the cost
Yeah.
for replacing all with ABS, which is the brakes pulsate and stuff like that. It goes through this little chamber.
Anti-lock brake systems, yeah.
Anti-lock brake system, and
Yeah.
so the sophistication of the braking systems requires that you maintain it, because when you go to stop and the ABS doesn't activate or your ABS light comes on, oftentimes it's because the system has not been serviced throughout its life.
Dave, brake fluid?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, definitely. We do it as a.
I drink a
as
shot of
message.
it every morning before. Yeah, it's
Well,
delicious.
It's like napalm, right?
And
Feels like victory.
And like Glenn said, the thing of it is the last thing you want is corrosion
Yeah.
in your brake system.
See, and the reason why I asked that question, just like we get asked, what is a tune-up? I was asked by, this is a longtime customer, 26 years he's been coming to us, and he says, Lee, he says, I'm a little frustrated with you. And I says, okay, what's that? And he goes, you know what, I've been coming here for a long, long time. This was about 3 years ago. And he says, and you know what, I've never had you recommend to me brake fluid before. And now all of a sudden I see this thing, brake fluid. He says, it just doesn't feel right. And I says, well, let's talk about it. I'm glad you talked to me about this. I says, let's talk about this. I
Yeah,
says,
so you put him through the steps, and he says, "Oh my God, I should have been doing this all along."
That's exactly right. Because
Yeah,
I asked him just basic, simple questions. Have you ever had to replace a caliper? Have you ever had to replace a master cylinder? Have you ever had to replace a rear wheel cylinder? And he looks at me and goes, well, of course I have. I mean, I drive a car. I said, why? He goes, well, I go, did they wear out from the outside because they got too much rust on them?
Yep.
Nope. But you know what? To your point, Glenn, what kind of
The
fluid
fluid-
is brake
the
fluid? It's
fluid breaks down.
ergonomic fluid.
Yeah.
And it collects moisture.
Yeah.
The big thing is,
Hydroscopic, it sucks
Yes.
the moisture out of
Yes.
the air.
that's exactly right. It sucks the moisture out of there. Not that we have a ton of it out here in Arizona, but we have enough of it to make a difference. And you know what? It's a very simple test, and I'm sure all of us have the test strips in our
Yeah.
shop. And all we have to do, just like you would a pool, you know what I mean? You
Yeah.
stick it in there and it tells you. So like I say, routine intervals, routine maintenance, those types of things save thousands, and that's where your cost of ownership, you know what I mean, goes down tremendously.
Exactly.
And depending on what vehicle you buy or what vehicle you're driving and how your driving habits are,
Yeah.
the thing of it is it's we have that conversation
You
and,
bet.
and we give you the information that we know and the
Education.
things that, and the things that we see on a daily basis. We give you that education, and it's just it's all about the relationship. It's back to that. It's back to the relationship you have with your shop. Go in there, ask questions. We love it, and like you just said a minute ago, a customer come to you with a question. Well, we love when you come in and ask us questions because we want to give you the answers that and make you feel comfortable about.
And I'm gonna finish my part of this by saying, can you afford the cost of neglect?
Oh boy, good question.
Boom.
You can't.
Drop.
Yeah.
Mic drop.
Where can they find us, Dave?
They can find us on podcast.
I love that. I love that.
Podcast out of the hood.
He got me there. I wasn't ready for that one. Yeah. Well, we got to wrap it up. You're right. 100%. We got to wrap this up. And it's been a great podcast. And I hope that we've given the consumer out there some more information.
A little bit of education.
Little more.
I'm excited to go more in
A few
depth
brain
with what you're
teasers.
talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, look, and we want them to feel comfortable when they come into our shops.
No
and,
question
and
about
we
it.
want them to feel comfortable with the whole process.
Well, and not just our shops, though. You know, that's the whole thing. I hope that they feel comfortable going in to all shops and that, you know, they can devise some good quality questions, you know what I mean,
Right.
about what kind of things they're getting. Because
Yeah,
you know what? I don't like to be put into a box. I like to be able to get what I want. And hopefully, if we do our job well, we'll be able to help people understand the questions that they can ask and should ask, and that there is no stupid question. You know
Right.
what I mean?
And if you do have a question, you can reach out to us on Underneath the Hood and message us, and
You bet.
I'll give you an honest answer. If you think something that someone is telling you at an auto repair shop sounds suspicious or flaky,
Doesn't pass the eye test.
yeah.
Well, we just want to be a great resource, and that's really what our job is to be a great resource. You know, and when you're doing customer service, that's your job, and
Yeah,
give
but-
the customer the information, help them solve some issues, some transportation issues in our case, and that's really our goal, and that's what I preach every day to my staff, and let them know that, hey, you're here to assist, be a great resource for our customers, to keep them on the road. And when they get on the back of a tow truck, I don't like to see any of my regular customers coming on the back of a tow truck.
Yeah.
You know, it's embarrassing to me.
It almost spells failure. Right?
Yeah. It's not a good feeling anyway. But we're going to wrap this sucker up, and can't wait to see you guys at the next podcast.
Dave, it's been fun.
Absolutely.
You guys appreciate
Thanks,
it.
guys.
Yeah,
Take
thanks
care.
a lot.
Be good.